I wish that worked as well at home. Maybe I shouldn't say that out loud. That should have been my inside voice. Okay, this is a regular meeting of the Board of Education for the Livermore Valley Joint Unified School District. The primary focus is the education of students of the school district. If you will all stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. We've got Girl Scouts.
We have some special visitors here who are going to lead us in our pledge. These are Girl Scouts from Altamont Creek and some of the neighboring schools in North Livermore.
Who's going to start? Okay.
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please come up.
Why do it? Oh, it's good.
Thank you. What's the blue one? Wasn't that fun? Anyone in the audience, were you a Girl Scout growing up? We have quite a few Scouts. Well done. We'll all say the pledge together later outside, or the promise. Okay, so this is where we would report out any actions in closed session, and we don't have any actions other than expulsions, so could I hear a motion on the first expulsion?
Yes, Mr. President, I move that the board approve the stipulated expulsion. We have to vote? Oh, never mind.
Yeah,
Sorry. I move that we have the board approve the stipulated expulsion for student A for the violation of Education Code sections 48915A, 2, 48900F, 48900M, and a rehabilitation plan is on file with the district.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. If we could call the roll.
Yes. Mrs. White.
Aye.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Aye.
Dr.
Dunlop.
I just have Dr. B.
Aye.
Dr. Dunlop. President Runyon.
Aye.
And myself, aye.
All right. And the motion is passed unanimously. And do I have a motion on the second student?
I move that the board approve the stipulated expulsion of student B for violation of Education Code sections 48915A2 and 48900F and 48900M. A rehabilitation plan is on file with the district office.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. We have a second. Thank you, Mr. McLaughlin. And if we could call the roll.
Mrs. White.
Aye.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Aye.
Dr. Dunlop.
Aye.
President Runyon.
Aye.
And myself, aye.
The motion carries unanimously. That takes us to meeting procedures. And this is the regular meeting of the Board of Education for the Livermore Valley Joint Unified School District. The primary focus is education of students within that school district. During this meeting, members of the public will have the opportunity to share information and voice their ideas concerning their ideas and concerns regarding matters within the jurisdiction of this public agency. During the board's discussion of each agenda item, there will be an opportunity for you to speak to that item. If the topic you want to address is not on the agenda, although not mandatory, we would encourage you to please fill out and turn in a tan speaker card. They're available in the lobby, and turn it in over here. You will then be called to speak on that topic during communications from the public. If you wish to address an item that is on the agenda, we encourage you to fill out a blue speaker card. Again, it is not mandatory to do so, and I will call your names in no particular order to speak to the board for no more than 3 minutes unless otherwise noted. Our meetings are televised on cable channel 28 Wednesdays at 7 p.m. and Saturdays at 9 a.m. So you're all looking really good. The people in the middle there, you're going to be seen on TV. So if you're happy with that, you're in a good place. If you don't like it, spread out a little. All right. So do we have any changes to the agenda tonight?
Madam President, we have one change to the agenda this evening. There was one additional formal correspondence email that came to the board. It was received after the agenda was posted on Friday, but per our board policy, any communications received by 4 p.m. the day prior to the meeting, which was yesterday at 4, will be acknowledged as formal written correspondence. So copies of the email from Paige Kumpel were forwarded to you upon receipt, and that has been placed at your seats. I also just wanted to add that we did receive additional correspondence after 4 p.m. yesterday and a few more today, and that correspondence will be agendized and acknowledged at the next regular meeting per board policy.
Thank you. All right, and this comes to the part that we all look forward to, which is recognition. So, Madam Superintendent, will you introduce the first one?
Certainly. I wanted to apologize. First of all, I'm a little under the weather, so my voice doesn't have its usual pep, but I am still just as enthusiastic about the recognitions. So we have two very special recognitions, and I'd like to introduce the principal of Altamont Creek Elementary School. That's Mr. P.J. Daly. He's going to come up here and do the honors of introducing some very hardworking and committed members of staff.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be up here and to acknowledge some hardworking professionals from Altamont Creek Elementary. I don't know if we can do better than that flag salute, but we'll do our best here. Tonight's with great honor that I recognize our paraprofessionals at Altamont Creek. Earlier in the week, I was asked by a few of them, well, why are you recognizing us? And my answer simply was, because you guys are awesome. They are an incredibly hardworking and dedicated group, vital to the success of our students. At Altamont Creek, we have a total of 22 paraprofessionals who work with our students every day. They range in classrooms from mild to moderate SDC, moderate to severe SDC, full inclusion, resource, and even transitional kindergarten. Altamont Creek is lucky to have such an amazing group working alongside our teachers for the well-being of our students, and tonight I'm happy to bring them forward to you. May I please have the paraprofessionals in attendance please come forward. Just line up there. It's fine. So again, not everybody is to be able to be with us in attendance tonight, but we do have the ones who are here. We have Kelly Bulware on the far side. Next to her is Suzanne Kleinfelter. Next to her, on her right, excuse me, is Victoria Cooper. And then next to her is our TK aide, Susie Loggins, and then Suzanne Alvarez, and then Amy Lane works also in our kindergarten full inclusion program. So again, tonight I'd like to honor all of our paraprofessionals at Altamont Creek Elementary. Again, we are excited, lucky to have them. We could not run the programs we have without their help. Thank you.
Please. Oh, no, you don't get away that easily. Please come up. Over here. Oops. Almost perfect. Thank you so much for everything. Thank you. All the Thank you. Sparkly right here. Other side. It's Christmas stuff. Well, excellent. And could we hear about the next recognition, please?
Certainly. And actually, Mrs. Cindy Alba, our Assistant Superintendent, is going to do the formal introduction. But I would like to just preface with my own introduction because Mr. Dick Farnsworth is somebody who has worked tirelessly for our district for so many years, even though he is not employed by us. He is someone that I think I began to know and work with probably almost 15 years ago when I was a teacher on special assignment. And we were starting some programs for the Science Odyssey was one of the programs we started, the Edward Teller Education Center programs for professional development for teachers, as well as the scholarships that many of our top science students receive, the Edward Teller scholarships. These were all brainstorms of Mr. Farnsworth, but the most wonderful thing about him is he doesn't just envision things, he actually ensures that they happen. And whatever hoops or loops that happen in bureaucratic places like districts and the lab, he would always make sure that he came through for our students and our staff. And so I feel a great loss that he won't be in his capacity at the lab, because he has just always been in any position that I've been in, I've seen the wonderful things he does for our students and our staff. So I wanted to give a personal and professional thank you to Mr. Dick Farnsworth for all that he's done for our students. And then Mrs. Alba is going to add to that.
I have to speak from here. You get to hold this flag. So I have the pleasure of saying a few more words, and then I'm going to let Mr. Rogie actually read the plaque. But this evening we are recognizing Mr. Richard Farnsworth, or as we always call him, Dick Farnsworth, who's made, as Superintendent Bowers says, such a significant impact on our students in the district over the years. He's been managing the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory Science Education Program, and recently in January decided to retire, although I've still seen him around. In this position, he's guided major Lawrence Livermore Lab efforts in teacher professional development. And so this encompassed things like the Edward Teller Science Education Symposium, which provided summer workshops and trainings for teachers in the areas of STEM education, and also Saturday workshops for our teachers so that they could interact with scientists and practitioners to really get that hands-on experience. Besides the professional development opportunities, there were many opportunities for students. I know you were involved in our NASA opportunity to be able to have our students actually speak to the astronauts on the space station. He was instrumental in, for many years, coordinating the math counts, which is scientists working with our students and mentoring them in math education. He served on the Granada High School Biotech Pathway Advisory Committee. I mean, those are just a few of the things. You know, I followed Superintendent Bowers when she left the curriculum department. I came in and Dick was one of the first people she told me about. She said he will be always there for you and coming to you with opportunities for students. And that's one of the things that I've enjoyed, is that he's always thinking of things that can involve our students, really innovative. He's also been a part of our Tri-Valley Educational Collaborative, which is our Dublin, Livermore, Pleasanton, and ROP and the college working together, as well as sitting on regional efforts in the area of STEM education, but always representing our students in our district. So we greatly appreciate all you've done for us and over the years. And did I say science on Saturday? Because that's the other one I think we've all enjoyed. So a never-ending list. And so anyway, thank you very much.
This plaque is presented to Richard Farnsworth in appreciation for your committed service to the students and staff of the Livermore Valley Joint Unified School District. Thank you for the lasting contributions to STEM education and professional development to ensure our students are prepared for the college and careers in the 21st century. Your words and deeds are inspiration to us all. I would like to say that when I first met Dick was a number of years ago at Science on Saturdays, and every February and March we do the dance to see, are our kids going to show up for this? And invariably everybody shows up to get extra credit, to listen to science, and especially parents who want to keep updated. He has put on some great educational experiences. He gets the best scientists out there, including science teachers, to also help out. And it's been a wonderful experience to meet Dick and to to work with him and be part of that experience, that small experience. There's so much more we could say about Mr. Farnsworth and his extensive experiences throughout the state to get science out to the kids. And there's one little note that I've always liked, and I always tell people, he's got a relative. Everybody know what a Farnsworth is from Warehouse 13? Everybody watch that? Everybody know what a TV set is? Phil Farnsworth was a relative of his who invented the TV set. So a little bit of notoriety too, but he has his own notoriety. Thank you very much.
If you wanted to, you're certainly welcome to say a few words.
Oh, do I have to talk to them?
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I got this email inviting me here last week. As you know, I have retired from the laboratory, but that means I'm actually just on long-term vacation. So I've gotten to continue to work a little bit with Science on Saturday and a few other things. But I was shocked, pleasantly shocked with this email and with this recognition. I did not expect it. And I have enjoyed working with this district more than anything else that I have done. Your district has been responsive to working with the laboratory. Without teachers and students, nothing we do at the lab would ever get done, would ever have any meaning. And it has been, I've been here for just under 25 years, and in the last, I know the first 5 years, things were not really close with the district. And in the last 20 years, it has been a very close relationship, so much so that we've had several board members participating on their time on Saturday morning, and it's tough enough to get kids out at that hour, but to get adults out is even tougher. So I thank you all. Just because I'm leaving the lab does not mean that the relationship in any way needs to change, that whoever they finally put into my position will certainly have me whispering into their ear to continue to do things. So thank you very much. This is, like I said, leaves me speechless. So I thank you all, and I really have enjoyed the opportunities to work with you all and with your teachers and students.
Well, it means...
I have that. How's that? Okay.
I'm just... Really? Well, and we have students.
I think we're going to take a 2-minute break. We're missing a few key people, so talk amongst yourselves. Maybe about science on Saturdays. Okay, so the next thing on our agenda is student board member reports. And Sarah, are you wanting to go first? I see you.
I'm just testing you guys to see if you can find me. No. I'll go first. So good evening, Superintendent Bowers, President Runyon, and Board of Trustees. I'm going to start off with my report with a video of shooting stars who were recently on Cal High Sports news station or news report, and it was about their latest performance at the Granada Livermore varsity basketball game. With that, I'll just play.
It's Friday night at Livermore High School, an hour before the varsity basketball game, and there's already a line out the door. It's a noisy night, a packed house, probably because tonight is senior night, and even more so is because the Shooting Stars are performing at halftime. The Shooting Stars is an inspirational group of special needs LHS students who decided to take their school spirit to a new level, off the bleachers and onto the hardwood.
It is a group of young, talented special needs kids, and they just perform their hearts out. And it is really most it's the most touching thing, right? Yeah. And they always put their heart into it.
It takes a village to raise a family. Well, this is the village. It's an awesome experience for her, and we can't be more proud of what she's done and everybody that helped make it happen.
It's a night where a lot of eyes water up. These young people put their all into the performance, and the entire audience appreciates their efforts. Home, visitors, it doesn't matter tonight. Everybody is on the same team.
And to get out here and get the support that they have from all of their classmates in both schools is truly amazing, and they work their butts off to get there.
And it's a big night for the Stars themselves, a night where all the hard work and practicing finally pays off.
I get to dance and also do cartwheels and also do stunts by picking up Bailey.
The Shooting Stars dancers were eager to talk about their halftime dance, and just like pretty much every other high schooler we come across at Cal High Sports, the Stars wanted to hold the microphone for us.
I'll hold it for you.
Oh, do you want to hold it?
Yes.
Okay. Microphone like this, like you need it. Right there. You point it right in the mouth.
Yes.
The Shooting Stars have all types of young people participate, even Jonathan McCunn, who's a nonverbal and in a wheelchair. But the young man is a big Giants fan. He even stole my hat right off of my head.
Jonathan's had some challenges, but always has that spirit and just strength. And it's really an inspiration to all of us.
An inspiration. That's the word we kept hearing this evening. Inspiration. And it's the truth.
They're amazing. Like, what they do makes the whole school so happy, and they bring us just like something exciting to us, and they inspire all of us. They really just show everyone that they really are like everyone else. They're no different. They may have some like different things about them, but it makes them no different from anyone else. And they really prove that to the audience tonight.
And when the performance ends, the fans cannot control themselves. They go absolutely bonkers. They break out into a chant, letting the Shooting Stars know that they are truly no different.
Both the Chargers and the Fighting Irish.
Well, if that doesn't get you a little choked up, I don't know what would. But just a little bit of background on the Shooting Stars right now. They're getting a lot of attention, and their kids are really loving it, and so are our other students, because the initial point of the program was to help those students feel like the rest of the students, and now it's kind of reversing. All of us want to feel like them and get the feeling that they get. So it's been really great, and we don't have a tentative date yet, but in about 2 weeks, the segment of Shooting Stars will be playing on ABC 7 News. It's going to be a special on prime time and everything, and a whole story from them from practices to performances. So something to look forward. But at Livermore High School, the trimester is coming to a close, but students are continuing to finish strong. For clubs, our campus now has a badminton club that encourages students to play at lunch and after school and meet with new friends with common interests. Our Link crew will be holding their usual cocoa, cookies, and cram before finals this week, today and tomorrow after school in the student union. Textbooks, cocoa, and cookies are provided along with the help of Link crew members to help freshmen study. For sports, our amazing wrestling team, who had won NTS as a team a couple of weeks ago, went for championships as individuals, and we took home 4th, 5th, and 6th, and I'm very proud of all the boys who participated and tried very hard. They brought home a lot of placements, and we're really proud of them this year. Our winter sports are officially over, and our spring sports are getting started and on their way. All of our teams are looking promising, and they're really excited to start off this new season. For a school achievement, Livermore High received a Civic Learning Award of Merit. This award was given to 13 schools, which Livermore High School was one of, in California, and it shows the strive of schools to engage students in civic learning. our school's implementation of civic learning will be used as models for other schools to put in place. In leadership, they've been advertising junior prom, as it'll be on April 12th, so it's approaching soon. It'll be at the Bridges in San Ramon. Tickets this week are $70 with ASB and $80 without. Prices go up next week, so we're encouraging all the students to buy them as soon as they can to save the most money. And coming soon, our 4th annual Greek Week will be here, and so it's on its way. Greek Week is a week of activities at lunch and through Spirit Days that encourages classes to do some good sportsmanship activities against each other and like Greek Olympic teams. The teams are made of 20 members of each class from all different seasons of sports and clubs. Interviews for team captains will be taking place next week, and we're really excited to see the classes come out and really represent their classes. So for now, that's all at Livermore High School, but I bet the next trimester will bring a whole bunch of new activities.
Thank you. And Haley?
Good evening, Superintendent Bowers, President Runyon, and Board Trustees. We're now in our final week of Trimester 2 at Granada, and we're looking forward to finishing off this week strong. In sports, our Granada varsity wrestlers Angel Beltran and Nick Campiotti placed in the NCS tournament this past weekend. Angel Beltran won the tournament and is going to continue on to compete at state, so we're really proud of him, and Nick Campiotti took 7. Spring sports have just begun, so our boys baseball team beat Berkeley on Saturday with a score of 6-1, and our girls softball beat Tennyson yesterday in their scrimmage match. Our boys volleyball is currently 2-0, and our boys tennis tied Freedom High School last week in their match. In academics, our finals are Thursday and Friday of this week. Finals for periods 1, 2, and 5 will be held Thursday, and finals for periods 3 and 4 will be held Friday. We're encouraging all students to make sure they renew or turn in their textbooks. Granada Expo will be held on March 19th, and it's to inform current students as well as incoming freshmen or transfer students of the courses available to them for the upcoming school year, including AP courses and elective courses. So course registration will begin following the Expo, so that students will be able to make informed decisions regarding the courses that they'll be taking in the next school year. And teachers will also be meeting with students who have shown potential in the AP class environment who have not yet taken one to encourage them to sign up for the class and to challenge them with the proper resources. These are from the way that they identified these students was from the EOS survey we did in the beginning of the school year, which helped them identify students who were interested in taking AP courses and who had shown the academic achievements to do so, but had not yet done so because they didn't know they were available to them. So we're hoping that that will bring a whole new group of students into the AP classrooms next year. In upcoming events, every student and staff member has a Google Drive account that allows for lifetime collaboration between students and staff. So we're trying to implement all of our students onto that system, getting them logged on and accustomed to it so they can begin working with the staff members and fellow students on that program. So we're really excited about the district's movement to be part of Google Apps. Coincidentally, we're also switching to Google Chromebooks to compensate for the change in state testing protocol and to begin a shift to a paperless environment at Granada. Also, Granada's 50th anniversary is going to be over the Memorial Day weekend, so the large event will take place on May 24th with an 11 o'clock a.m. ceremony to officially celebrate the 50th anniversary, and events will be taking place Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for alumni and current students to join in on. In leadership, our International Outreach Committee is hosting a bowling night Friday night at Granada Bowl to raise money for their water well efforts in Ghana. So the tickets can be bought on campus for $15 or for $20 at the door, and $10 from each of the tickets sold will be given to the water well efforts in Ghana. So we're almost there. We have about $1,500 left to go before we can put the water well in Ghana. So we're hoping to achieve this before the end of the school year. And Granada Idol will be held on March 27th in the day show for the day show, and the 28th, or for the night show, I apologize, and for the 28th for the day show. So we're really looking forward to showcasing all of our school's talent, and it's a really fun event for everyone to get together for a rally to celebrate all of the individuals in our school who have incredible voices. Dancing with the Teachers will be hosted on March 21st at 7 o'clock in the big gym, and teachers will be performing dances choreographed by students, and all of the proceeds from the $5 admission fee will go to the Granada Fights Foundation that was established by students, for which the proceeds go to the Jimmy V Foundation. And in clubs, DECA is hosting a sports-themed dance on Friday, March 14th, and all of the proceeds will go to funding research for muscular dystrophy. So we encourage all students to go and attend. Just dress up in your favorite sports team attire and go have a good time for a good cause. And Red Cross Club is coordinating the Team Delaney Blood Drive, and it will be held in the Granada High School small gym on Friday, March 14th from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. We encourage everyone from students and just members of the Livermore community to come and participate to help Delaney Newton and also other people who are in need of blood transfusions all around the community in the state. So you can sign up at redcrossclub.org with the sponsor code Granada, or you can contact Miss Miller in room S2, or I'm sure if you call Granada, you could get them to transfer you to her extension. And Interact Club is also planning a benefit show on the 14th of March at the Pleasanton Veterans Hall, and there will be entertainment and auction and dinner. The event is to raise money for their international project of providing solar cookers for people in Afghanistan, so we're hoping to get a lot of great turnout at that event as well. That's all that's going on at Granada for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we've come to employee associations. Is there anyone who'd like to speak? Okay, not tonight. And that brings us to communications from the public. Communications from the public is time for the public to comment either in writing or verbally on any item that is not on the agenda. The board may listen to comments and ask staff clarifying questions, but they will neither discuss nor take action at this meeting on topics that are not on the agenda in accordance with the Brown Act. If you'd like to address a topic that is not on this evening's agenda, now is the time to do so. And I have a tan card from Mr. Steve Goodman, if you want to come up. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. Appreciate it. Haley, kind of stole my thunder a little bit, but I'm here representing the 50th celebration of Granada High School. One of many on the committee, and we have, hopefully you've seen some of these flyers around town. We have shirts, and we've been trying to promote it, so it shouldn't come as a surprise to you, but I've handed you, Margaret, the invitations to all the board members and the superintendent. Just again to reiterate, this is going to be Memorial Day weekend on Friday. We're going to have a golf tournament at Las Positas. There will be a downtown by the decades where folks will gather. On Saturday, we have campus activities with former coaches and faculty and alumni that will participate. And then that evening on Saturday, we will have an event at the Shrine Event Center where we'll gather to have music, dinner, and I'm sure a lot of stories. So I'm here to also just invite you and everyone in the public, whether you went to Granada or not, 50 years is a big deal. Livermore had their 100th year a while back, and it's a great event to talk about the old days and get some perspective on where we were, 8 tracks and curb feelers, and I won't even tell you what that is anyway. So we just would welcome anyone that would want to come in, and we're looking for anyone that has pictures or memorabilia. We'll have to ask the students if they want to look up twofold and Google it and find out what that meant. But we were very progressive back in the day, and I graduated even despite the progressive nature of twofold. But again, just want to welcome everyone. And again, if you went to Livermore, if you didn't go to Granada, it's going to be a great event, a lot of fun times. And so we just want to welcome and invite everyone to come.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, I have another card from Mr. Bueno, but I see that you want to talk about the parcel tax, so I'm going to call you on that item. And Mr. Rogi, do we have any written correspondence?
Madam President, we do. This first is from Paige Kumpel. I'm a parent and volunteer at the Livermore Valley Charter School. I'm just going to read excerpts, by the way. I've heard that through the renewal process of the current parcel tax, the board has discussed possible inclusion of the Livermore Charter Schools. I am so pleased with this inclusion of our school, as it really shows through action the board's commitment to all students in Livermore. This next one is from Ted Schaefer, parcel tax extension. This tax is unfair and discriminatory, and if it does not include all separate apartment units in the district as so-called parcels, as the number of school-age children living in them is very large. You should change it.
If you could hold on that one, I'd like to ask a clarifying question. Would someone from staff like to address the rules about parcel taxes and whether districts set them, or?
So we did do some research regarding that question. California law requires parcel taxes be applied evenly, no matter the size or the worth or the use of the parcel. in the past, there have been some school districts that have tried to apply different tax rates to commercial property or to that of residential property, and the courts have ruled that that cannot be done.
Thank you very much. Please continue.
Thank you. From Tara Adderman, dear Board President Runyon and members of the board, thank you for your thoughtful consideration of including the Livermore Charter Schools in your upcoming parcel tax renewal. We greatly appreciate the willingness of the LVJUSD board to open these discussions. I understand that you may include a measure on the June ballot to extend the expiring parcel tax and are willing to consider including the Livermore Charter Schools as well. Thank you for this consideration. Sincerely, Pet. Dana Marturek. Sorry if I slaughtered your name. I would support the parcel tax to benefit all the schools in the city of Livermore. And this last one is from the Alameda County Office of Education, addressed to Kate Runyon and the Board of Education. In accordance with the Education Code, Section 42127, we have examined the first interim report of Livermore Valley Joint Unified School District for fiscal year 2013-14 to determine if it complies with the criteria and standards adopted by the State Board of Education pursuant to Educational Code Section 42131. Based on our review and analysis, we are satisfied that the first interim report approved by the district's governing board on December 10, 2013 reflects the financial status of the district and is consistent with the state's criteria and standards. We therefore concur with the district's positive certification with our concerns outlined below. Deficit spending. The district's first interim report anticipates deficit spending in the unrestricted general fund to be approximately $1.8 million for 2013-14 and $209,000 for 2014-15. The district has included approximately $3.83 million parcel tax revenue in its multi-year projection through fiscal year 2015-16. The district recognizes that the parcel tax will expire at the end of 2014-15. If the parcel tax is not extended through 2015-16, the district may incur deficit spending of approximately $1.9 million in 2015-16. The district anticipates being able to maintain at least the required minimum level of reserve for economic uncertainties through 2015-16. Local control funding formula. They are encouraging that all LEAs carefully consider the effects of LCFF in their multi-year projections. And in conclusion, while LCFF has indeed improved the fiscal outlook for education in California, the unstable economic environment continues. We encourage all districts to retain a flexible multi-year strategy as we move forward. Sincerely, Sheila Jordan, Superintendent, Alameda County Office of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Rogie. And that brings us to information discussion items. And Madam Superintendent, would you like to introduce the first item?
Certainly. So I will ask Mrs. Amy Robbins, our Director of Curriculum and Special Projects, to come up, and she will introduce the item. We'll be providing an update on the structure and implementation of the Common Core state standards. And it's my understanding she will be joined by some members of our certificated staff as well.
Good evening, Board President Runyon, Superintendent Bowers, and members of the board. Mrs. Bowers is right. In a few minutes, we will have a group of our Livermore Education Association members come forward to help with a presentation. So we're going to talk today, and this is one of a multi-presentation series about the Common Core and the progress within our district. But today we're really going to focus on some of the structures that have been in place for the last several years on which that we feel that we're building on a strong foundation so that we can move forward and stay in the lane that we need to as we implement the Common Core. So as with anything, we want to start by looking at our district's mission statement, and that guides all that we do programmatically as well as from day to day. So our mission, as you know, is that each student will graduate with the skills needed to contribute and thrive in the changing world. So really making sure that all students have the opportunities that they need to make sure that they are going to be successful as they enter into the world and leave us as they exit 12th grade. So looking at our mission and the Common Core State Standards mission, they're very closely aligned because with the Common Core as well as our commitment to our students, we want to make sure that all students are meeting college and career expectations, that they are literate and able to navigate through the 21st century, that they're prepared to be successful in our global economy and within society, and that as our K-12 district or TK-12 district, that we're providing them with rigorous content and also having them apply that content knowledge so that they're able to think critically and build on those skills to be successful. So when we look at Common Core, as we all know, full implementation will begin next year. So looking back at last year was our awareness year, and we did a tremendous amount of work and really focused on depth of knowledge, 21st century skills, text complexity, and last year we had schools that were chosen to pilot the Smarter Balanced Assessment. This year is our transition year to the Common Core, and we're continuing to look at our instruction and build on 21st century skills and make instructional shifts in our classroom to make sure we're really enhancing opportunities for our students and building those 4 C's: communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity. We're also working on making sure that our staff members are all engaged in the process, so we are taking every opportunity we can to engage in professional development, one of those being the 4th Wednesday of each month. And so there's several series of professional developments going on, and we'll be bringing those back to you in our subsequent presentations. And like I mentioned previously, we're really looking at our current structures that are in place and how do we support with those structures. If there are needs to go back and focus on really establishing more concrete pieces to make sure that there's a solid foundation. And so when we're looking at the structures on which we're building, we're looking at professional learning communities, instructional rounds, and data teams. And throughout all of this, really looking at our instructional leaders that are on site to help us get the momentum and the expertise at the site level needed to move us forward with the Common Core. As a district, our guiding commitments for our Common Core is to, and for everything that we do as our superintendent and the board have created, is to make sure that we are innovating, we're including, we're informing, and we are inspiring. And so as I talk this evening, you'll see how some of our structural foundations mirror those guiding commitments. So when we're looking at being inclusive, as a district, we really believe and we value shared leadership. We want to make sure all of our stakeholders are involved in the process, and we're really capitalizing on instructional leadership teams. So at the site level, each site has an instructional leadership team composed of teachers either from the grade levels or from departments where they come together regularly to gather information, to receive professional development, and go back to their site at the grade level or the department level to make sure that they're engaging others and working with their colleagues to share knowledge. We're being innovative. We're really working together to be collaborative and focusing on professional learning communities, learning from one another, studying best practices, and really making sure that we are contributing to one another's work. And so that is a product of being innovative. And when we talk about professional learning communities, those exist within grade levels, within departments, at site levels, and at the district level. There's many different professional learning communities across the district, and of course we are all one large professional learning community, and we really have 4 guiding questions that guide us through everything that we do, from the district level down into the classroom to the student level. So what do we want our students to learn? And so with Common Core, there's a lot of exploration of the Common Core standards, the 21st century skills. How is that going to change? How will we know if they've learned it? So really looking at our assessments, the depth of knowledge at which we're asking our students to perform so that we can make sure that there's deep understanding of those concepts. How are we going to respond when students haven't learned? And so looking at our interventions and support structures that are in place. And lastly, how will we respond if they have already learned it? What are the enrichment pieces that we are going to make sure are in place so that our students, all students, are moving forward with their learning? And we also want to make sure we're inspiring others. And something that has been in place for a couple of years now is our instructional rounds. And that is a process that came out of Harvard. And it's modeled after the medical school rounds models, where teachers are joining their administrators and going outside of their classroom to look at best practices in other classrooms and to be able to bring that quantitative data back to their site level, and for the staff to really synthesize that data and make decisions on areas of needed focus and best practices as far as how to move forward to make sure we're meeting the diverse needs that are present in our classrooms. Informed, how are we going to make those best decisions? How are we going to look at best practices and determine whether they are actually, in fact, best practices? So really making informed decisions and using data as the center of everything we do to assess how we are doing, what instructional practices are working, what our students' needs are. So another structure that we've had in place and we continue to develop is the use of data teams at the site level as well as at the district level. So when we look at a quote from Richard DeFore, to create a professional learning community, focus on learning rather than teaching, work collaboratively, and hold yourself accountable for the results. So we are modeling that this evening because we are very fortunate that our Livermore Education Association is so supportive and such a great partner with the district level folks. So I'm going to ask the Vice President, Jenny Unger, to come forward of our Livermore Education Association, and 3 of her members, our 3rd grade team members from Maryland Avenue. We have Sharon Abree, Noah King, and we have Taylor Parker.
Hi, I'm Jenny Unger, Vice President of Livermore Education Association, and I'm also a 1st grade teacher. One of the goals that Shelley and I had and our executive board had for our members this year was to look at providing some pieces of professional development that showed how other teachers were doing the kind of work that we were being asked to do, and that we were looking at as far as what was working, what was successful, which pieces would help our other teachers become more successful, in whether it was looking at data, whether it was looking at collaboration, whether it was looking at strategies for teaching English learners, all those kinds of things. So the first piece that we made was actually filmed by Noah and edited by Noah. These are all 3 teachers from Maryland Avenue in the 3rd grade, and they put themselves out there by videotaping one of their data meetings where they were looking at some assessments that their children had done. So, Noah?
Yes. Good evening. The video that we're going to show today, it's about 20 minutes long. We're not going to make you watch the entire thing. So you're going to see a clip jumping in the middle. There are 5 steps in the data team process, and we're going to start at step 3, the part of the video about setting SMART goals. So I just wanted to fill you in a little bit on what happens before that, step 1 and 2. Before a data team meeting, the members of the grade level team chart the data of whatever assessment they are going to be analyzing. So as a team, all 5 of the teachers on our team use these charts, which you can see up on the screens now, to put in the results data of how the students did, both as classes and individually. The second step is coming together as a team and analyzing that data. We look at the charts, we see what the data is telling us about how students performed, we look for patterns, and then after we have discussed that, we move on to step 3, where we set goals. SMART goals are goals that are specific, they're measurable, they're achievable, they're relevant, and they're timely. And that's what you're going to see right now, is after we have charted our data and analyzed it together as a team, we then move on to set some goals for what we want to do next, what would be our next steps in helping our students to improve.
And so we're going to jump in the middle of step 3, the setting the SMART goal process. So after the video, we'll let the Maryland Avenue team add to and elaborate on the video that we're going to see.
What kind of goal do we want to set for the far below basic kids? An increase of 20%?
Now, even on those that are at the highest end or far below, if we may increase their score by 20%, they won't be at proficient.
Right. I mean, we're
showing some examples of, how, what is and what's not, so that they can see the difference between, looking at what some of these explanations are that we got, at the model, yeah, so that they can see and understand what the difference is.
Once the goals have been set, the team is ready to move on to step 4, where they will select effective teaching strategies to help them meet these goals.
Okay, so the next thing that we need to do is to select effective teaching strategies. So the whole point of this is that we improve our teaching. So we look at the data and we say, if we were successful at a certain problem or a certain skill, now we want to share that and we want to put that skill, that strategy into our repertoire and to really improve the intervention.
So do we want to look at specific problems that we have some strategies for, or look at a class that's more successful and hear from them when they did good? Well, let's collect your data and we can ask.
So a couple of little explanation things. First of all, Noah and I don't always talk so much. Also, we decided that this was a real data team, even though we spent longer than we normally do. One of our teachers, Erica, is being trained in the professional development for math, and so we just decided as a grade level we were just going to dive right in. And so we started the teaching of our multiplication unit using all of the strategies that they had learned at the professional development. And so we created an assessment that we had never used before, and we developed that ourselves, and we weren't sure at all of what kinds of results we would get. And the results weren't great. And so, part of this is just really authentic. Wow, what did we find out, and what didn't we teach well enough? So when you see that, the explanations, and Taylor said, oh, that would be tier 1 because we didn't teach them how to do that. That was real. We were asking them to explain their answers in ways that we hadn't actually taught them to do. So, that's the purpose of this process, is to see where your successes in teaching are and where you haven't done exactly what you're supposed to. So, that effective teaching strategies, once we looked at our data, then we saw that there were variations between the classes on multiplying with multiples of tens, hundreds, and thousands. And
Yes.
you're going to make me go on.
You don't have to keep going.
Oh, I don't. And that was the area that we specifically started talking about, what different teachers did and how we could improve our instruction in that area, because there were quite a bit of variation between the classes.
Great. And can you talk a little bit about the indicators, the fifth step, the final step? How does it all wrap up? Where do we move from here?
Well, the fifth step is choosing results indicators, which is a fancy way of saying we decide how are we going to know if the interventions that we apply are successful. And in this particular case, we decided that the results indicator would be a retest after intervening with the students. So that last step really is just how it's like the second question on your list of 4 questions. How are we going to know if they learned it? And so that's the fifth step. And of course, after that, you could come back and hold another data team on the retest. And at that point, you see how much growth the students have exhibited.
Thank you, Maryland third grade team, for all of your work. That is a very, very small portion of the video that doesn't do it justice. We have it in its entirety, and we'll be using it for training. As Sharon had mentioned, it really is a process. It's very cyclical, and it really is putting yourself out there as a teacher to work with your colleagues to figure out other ways, other methods of instructing our students, because while we all think that we know the very best, we are lifelong learners just like our students, and we want to model that. So I thank you, and I thank the Livermore Education Association for really working collaboratively. We are one big team. We are the district, and so it helps to have support in professional development and training models as we move forward on our work. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Could we save them so we can ask them some questions? We don't want to leave yet. Okay.
Go ahead, Dr. Dunlop. You look like you're ready.
Well, I have some questions. And the whole issue is you're watching the students and working with them interactively and saying, okay, they haven't learned this or learned that, and then you come back and change the approach. In the time that you have available during the school year, is that still time for you to cover all of the issues, or do sometimes you get slowed down in the process of making sure they have learned parts?
Across the test, when we do the data teams, there are, well, if on a test maybe with 25 questions, every question usually will have been missed at least once. So we choose the questions that the students have struggled with the most, and we focus our efforts there. So maybe we'll grab the top half of the problems where students have really been struggling, and then find the strategies from other teachers to target those bits. And then after our second data team, where we're looking at the results after that, we're looking again to see what our higher hit questions were, and so that we could target those again, even though we wouldn't do a third data team. After hearing the results the second time, then we'll use that information to help as much as we can as we move along into the next units.
Okay, the next question is obviously also you have students that learn faster than others, and so many times you're dealing with a subset of the students who basically don't get the issue. Is there a way to keep the other students moving forward while you go back and go over some key issues for some of the students?
Absolutely. What we call our main instructional time our Tier 1 instruction. Tier 1 instruction is what you would picture when you picture a traditional teacher addressing the class for the first time on a topic. Then we have Tier 2 intervention, which is a teacher or an instructional aide working with students who need a second dose. And typically, those are being pulled as small groups who are being pulled aside and working while the other students who have already mastered that material are moving on and with further Tier 1 instruction.
Great. Thank you very much. This is very helpful. Thank you.
Mr. Rogi?
Just how long has the data team been together doing this?
How long is a meeting usually?
No, how long has the data team been together?
Oh,
8 years?
8 years.
No, we've been Noah and I have been working together for 10 years, but it's probably been 8 years that we've been doing data teams.
In third grade.
In third grade.
So
school-wide.
School-wide, yeah.
But if I might be understanding the question right, we're not any special team other than the grade level team that we always are.
So that's what I was looking at. If you've been together for 8 years, so you're tracking data for 8 years and looking at repeats, or you're not having repeats of some issues because you're
The focus of a specific data team meeting is a specific assessment or specific performance by the students. But we do, as part of our regular data team meetings, frequently say, when we pull up the data and say what percentage of our students were proficient on this assessment, and we'll say, oh, it looks like 83%. What was it last year? And we'll look, oh, last year it was 74%. Okay, so we are tracking to make sure that it's a constant improvement.
So how long until perfect?
Next
year. Let me write that down. Next year.
The only difference is that now we're trying to do this all with Common Core. So the assessments are completely different, and we're sort of learning all over again how to do the data team with these new assessments, and how, with a rubric, or how to even score each item, because an item might have, the correct answer, how many methods you used, and how did you explain your answer. So we're still learning the best way to score these and judge proficiency on that. We haven't, it's a new learning curve for us.
Okay, thank you.
Mrs. White?
Are these assessments that you're giving now with the Common Core, do they come from someplace else? Are you self-created assessments? And
we have some things that we've picked up, like right now we're using some units from the Engage New York program, and so there are some assessments. Others that we're making up our own.
But it's not a prepackaged program that you do this on the first week and this on the second week and this on the third? No. And do you wait till Wednesdays to do a data team, or do you informally do a data team Tuesday after school, or
we have our grade level collaboration meetings on Wednesdays after school. And so if we have just given an assessment, the data team meeting is part of that meeting.
Sure, sure.
Okay. I guess the question that I would like to ask, and I kind of think I know the answer, is do you have enough time to do all these things that we ask you to do?
What do you think the answer is?
I think the answer is probably no. I think that you're probably doing a really great job with the amount of time that we give you for this kind of thing, but I'd love to see not only articulation with your other grade levels, but with other schools to share the lessons that you've learned. And our responsibility up here would be to continually fight for that funding for staff development and collaboration time so that you can do this very important work. And I'm looking for some concurrence from you.
You're exactly right. I think if you asked 100 teachers what is your most valuable resource and what resource do you have the least of, every one of them would tell you it's time. We can certainly are doing fantastic things with the time we have, but with more time we could do even more.
So the most important thing that you would recommend to me as a board member is to get you more staff development time and more collaboration time.
All of the above.
There you go. Thank you. Oh, yes.
Her question made me think of another question. So when you chart, that's the only part of the technology that you're using. You're dumping data into a couple charts. I mean, it's not that simple, but that's the technology. There's no software program that you've invented or you're using to collect and then move data to chart.
No, there's no special software program, and those are charts that we created ourselves on Microsoft Excel. We've made them available to teachers across the district if they'd like to use them, but we made them to be the most useful and helpful for us, for our team, and for the way that we want to look at the data and the way we want to analyze the data. So another team at another school might find that that's not the most useful way for them to look at the data, and so we've encouraged people to either use these as a jumping off point or to create something that would work better for them.
We also have all of these documents on Dropbox, and so we don't want to waste our meeting time putting together the data. So we each enter our data into Dropbox so that when we get to the meeting, it's already there.
So the data entry is manual, not being collected from.
Oh, no, it's all manual.
Okay.
It's manual, but it doesn't take extremely long.
No.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just going to take this opportunity while I have you a little bit off topic. I assume that Maryland is still a high mobility school, meaning we've got a lot of kids coming in and out. How do you address that challenge? I mean, I know we've gotten excellent results at Maryland, but I want to understand more how you address that challenge of a student that comes in to third grade that we didn't have from TK or kindergarten.
I think you may want to elaborate on how the data team helps you to get to know that student pretty quickly.
Right. So because we look at each student individually, and we collect the data, and we're looking, and we teach a little differently also. So I think that was Mr. Dunlap's question of how do you do that and let everybody get to where they need to be. So the class is moving around. We have we'll have the whole group, then we'll have another group working on problems. We work with a small group. I might have, one kid who after 6 months still can't regroup in subtraction. I might walk over there with a whiteboard every day and do one problem with him. So it's being creative and fluid and, touching that kid throughout the day and getting them the practice that they need in as many creative ways as you can. It's whack-a-mole.
Can you also mention a few of your members that were not able to come for the third grade team?
Yes. Taylor's partner, Therese Maldonado, team teaches with him, and they share a classroom and wasn't able to come tonight. And also Erica Johnston is our fourth classroom teacher who was not able to be here tonight.
So as I described, there's a true art to teaching and juggling, and time is always a valued commodity, but as teachers, they're all dedicated to giving what it takes to make sure all students have what they need to be successful.
And if I could just add in about the mobility factor, one of the things that Maryland has done extremely well is they focus on what they can impact and can control. And so what this school has won many accolades and has been a model Quality Education Investment Act, or QUIA school, for a reason. And I think just recently received another award from the California Business Bureau of Education because of its exceptional achievement. And I think it's because the staff, the environment that they've created in this collaborative environment, is that they're very committed to the students when they have them at that time, and they're all present. And so they know that they may not be able to control if the student has to go with crops and migrate and go somewhere else, but during that time they're going to get the most that they can from the student, because they treat them each not as data points but as individuals, and they know where that child comes in and how they are doing at every step, and then how they leave. And so I think that's something that's really commendable. It's what makes them exceptional. It's why we like to use them as a model for others, but still allow for autonomy in the other schools for their styles. But this is definitely an example for all, which is why we love having the video. And also, in the larger picture, having talked to as many of my colleagues and superintendents in other districts, it isn't often, it's definitely the exception, and a wonderful exception, when your bargaining unit folks, your associations, go that extra step to work with the district and actually even take the burden off the district by creating educational videos. That's not always the focus of every union, and it's pretty amazing, and we're very lucky to have that. So I just wanted to add that.
And that's only our first in a planned series.
Gonna have a weekly show pretty soon, TV 30.
And if we piqued anyone's curiosity and you do want to see more of that video, it is on YouTube, and you would just search for the title, An Introduction to Data Teams, and you would be able to find that there.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
If you guys could
Oh,
sit
yeah.
there for a moment, because you're going to have some hands to shake in just a moment. So as our superintendent mentioned, and many of you trustees hit on it, Maryland is an extremely successful school and moving forward with all of their students and addressing needs. And I think it's a true representation of the structures that we're talking about: professional learning communities, that collaboration, using the 4 guiding questions to do what's in the best interest of students, using data to drive instruction. They are often out and about observing one another and looking at those best practices. So really seeing all of the structures that we have in place, Maryland definitely, listening to the conversation, has been utilizing those structures, and I know other sites have as well. So that has created a solid foundation on which to build. And as Sharon mentioned, this is new territory, the Common Core, but we do have solid footing. So we look forward to the rest of this year and next year as we transition. So I would like to thank the Livermore Education Association and our Maryland Avenue 3rd grade team for highlighting how these structures have supported you in your work. And I look forward to upcoming Common Core presentations, which concludes our presentation.
And I'd like you all to go ahead and come on up here and let us shake your hand. Part 2 next time. I did want to go ahead and give any member of the public that wanted to comment on this item a chance. Okay, we didn't. All right, so the next item, excuse me? No, he's on the next item. The next item is a public hearing, and would you like to introduce this item?
Certainly, Madam President. So this is the time for the board to take public input regarding the district's proposed renewal for the existing parcel tax. And so I'm going to start with a little bit of a background. We did have an information item at the last board meeting, so for some of you this might be repetitive, but just to refresh. So starting in November of 2004, we had 71.6% of Livermore voters approved Measure D, and that was a $120 per parcel for 5 years. There was a senior citizen exemption and a citizens independent oversight committee. It was equivalent to about $10 per month, and that went through June of 2010. And the primary focus of the funding was for class size reduction, high school counselors, middle school electives, elementary science specialist program, and staffing in the school libraries. And then in November of 2008, knowing that that original Measure D was on the horizon to be expiring, we went back and 76.2% of the voters approved Measure M. That was $138 per parcel, so a slight increase. Ended up being $11.50 per month through June of 2015, which is coming up. And that funding has provided smaller class sizes, high school counselors, middle school electives, elementary science specialists, and supported technology. And so looking at those numbers, what's required by law in order to pass a parcel tax is the 2/3, or 66.6, or we usually say 67%. So both of them well above the threshold that's required by law. And so we have begun to look ahead, knowing that this funding is very vital for some critical programs, and knowing that our community loves to support us locally, as we are sometimes at the whim of the state when it comes to economic certainty. And so looking ahead, in January, we asked Tramatol Advisors and True North Research to assist us in conducting a community poll. And the focus was to determine the feasibility of an extension of the existing parcel tax, the level of community support, as well as the priorities of our local community for what our public school students should have. And on February 18th, we presented, actually representatives from both Traumatola and True North presented to the board those results. And so just a brief summary was the initial ballot test from the folks who were polled in the city, 69% were in favor. And then halfway through, after having more information, 72% were in favor. And then the final ballot test, this is after hearing not only the arguments in favor, but any arguments against or possible concerns, there were still 71% in favor. And this was a demographically matched group who are the folks who normally would vote in elections in Livermore. So with that in mind, the recommendation was to consider a June election, because there was already a lot of visible support for extending, with no increase, the existing parcel tax. So just to recap about the funding that has come in, this is an updated, last time we showed you the 2012-13, this is 2013-14, but it's comparable. It's about $3.8 million, and there's a breakdown that shows that it goes to those very vital programs that have been able to survive and thrive even in the most uncertain economic crisis of our time. And here's another way to look at for the visual learners to see how it's parceled out. So there's a lot of reasons why a parcel tax extension makes sense, and I just give you a few of those reasons. First of all, the Livermore School District, as many know, we've historically received less funding per student every year than the state average, and substantially less than many of our neighboring districts. And that's a funding gap, and that was through no fault of our own. That's just because of the timing and the loopholes of when different districts unified. But it has always put us behind the financial curve by comparison, as we compete with our neighboring districts for the same standards, the same staff and personnel. And so the new state budget formula, the local control funding formula, is just coming in now. And that does appear to bode well for Livermore schools, so that after a 7 or 8 year period, we will be near the state average. So I don't want to sound unappreciative, but it doesn't mean that we are suddenly going to be flush, but it means that over an 8 year period, we will incrementally close the gap, and we'll be close to the state average, and close to the state average of what districts received in 2007. So that is the local control funding formula. We will receive some extra funds, for supplemental funds, because we have some students in high poverty, or who are English learners, or foster children, but that is very targeted funding and is specifically for those purposes. So there is still a need for supplemental funding in order to maintain the highest quality education programs in Livermore. Measure M, again, provides approximately $3.8 million annually, and we have come to rely on that so that we were not laying off and increasing our class sizes when many of our neighboring districts who could not pass parcel taxes had to do so. Measure M requires the local funds be spent locally, and so again, we have we listen to the community, we validate what it is that they want, and we make sure that it happens because we have complete influence and control over that at the local level. Measure M has provided that safety net to preserve programs and services so that even though we don't have a lot of extra funding coming in, we can guarantee that these programs will continue. And looking ahead, if we don't go out to the voters now, then we would end up having to have a shortfall in a year from June, and we would have critical educational programs at risk. Or if we decided to preserve some of these programs, then we would have to cut elsewhere. So based on the poll results, there has been some sample ballot language that is being proposed, and this is very precise because I think there's a 75-word limit, and Livermore Valley Joint Unified School District counts as one word. So I have learned something because I thought we were over the limit. But I think it's important enough in a public hearing. Normally we don't like to read our PowerPoints, but I think it's important enough for me to read. To maintain the quality of Livermore public schools without raising tax rates, continue local funding for advanced courses in math, science, and engineering. Keep schools well maintained. Attract and retain highly qualified teachers. Provide elementary school science and technology specialists. And keep classroom technology and instructional materials up to date. Shall the Livermore Valley Joint Unified School District levy a tax of $138 per parcel annually for 7 years, with independent oversight and audits, exemptions for seniors, and all funds staying local. So that is the ballot language being proposed, and we have until March 7th deadline to actually place that on the ballot. And what's required is a public hearing for members of the community to provide public input regarding the proposed renewal of the existing parcel tax. And I know that we've also received public input in other ways through the community and through our correspondence that Mr. Rogie referenced. So my recommendation as superintendent is that you would open the public hearing, receive comments, and then close that public hearing.
Thank you. So we're going to go ahead and open the public hearing. And Mr. Bueno, if you'd like to start. Welcome.
Welcome. Madam President, Board, Superintendent, and staff, my name is Craig Bueno. My wife and I have lived here in the community for just about 30 years now. We have 3 sons who went K through 12 here. I'm very much in support of the school district. All of our sons did really well here, and it's a testament to what the district's doing. When they graduated in 09 and 10, all went on the UCs, all graduated, high interest in math, economics, science. In full disclosure, I work at Granada as a volunteer. I've coached 10 seasons there, but as a volunteer. I hope that the board supports this extension. I think that the school district's doing a fine job, and it's a testament to the staff. I happen to working at Granada High School as a coach. I can tell you that the teachers are very dedicated, and that it's a needed thing. I know that the school is underfunded, and anything we can do to supplement and increase the opportunities for these children, I'm going to stand in support of. So should the board take this action, I'm going to offer my full support. I've been in public service just ending my 28-year career as a fire chief in the city of Hayward. So I'm going to have a little bit of time, and I'm going to offer that professional support in this endeavor should you choose that route. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there any other member of the public that would like to comment? All right. Seeing no one, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and ask if any board member wants to comment. Okay. So, if you could introduce the next item.
Certainly, and there will be a resolution later on that is attached to this item. But for our next item, I will ask Mrs. Yolanda Holmes, our Executive Director of Human Resources, to come up. She will present the Livermore Education Association contract reopeners for a successor agreement with the district effective July 1st, 2014. And in this case, since it's the LEA's proposal, we would ask that you formally receive the proposal or accept it.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Board member, President Runyon, board members, Superintendent Bowers. This evening, we are looking to receive and adopt, or asking the board to receive and adopt the LEA and Livermore Valley Joint Unified School District initial proposals for a successor agreement effective July 1 this year, 2014. The negotiations process and review, articles are to be negotiated and made public for sunshining, and so that was done at our February the 18th board meeting. The second step is to accept the public comment for the last 2 weeks. To approve the district articles tonight is what's being asked. To begin negotiations, the team meets and come to an agreement, union ratification vote, and then board vote. So that is the general overview of the process. The LEA initial proposal, the Livermore Valley Joint Unified, the Livermore Education Association is sunshining the following articles for July 1, 2014. Article 9, Workday. Article 12, Evaluations. Article 13, Peer Assistance and Review. Article 16, Class Size. Article 21, Wages. Article 22, Health Benefits. Article 23, Retiree Health Benefit Trust. And Appendix C, Procedures for Determining Extracurricular Pay. And Appendix D, the Extracurricular Pay Schedule. The superintendent's recommendation this evening is to receive public comments, receive the initial proposal from the Livermore Education Association for a successor agreement effective July 1, 2014.
So, is there any member of the public who would like to comment? All right.
So it's formally received. And now we'll go to the next item, which is, again, Mrs. Yolanda Holmes. She'll be introducing our discussion action item, which is the adoption of the Livermore School District's proposal. And I did want to just preface with Mr. Van Schack wanted to let people know why he's not here tonight, and it's because he is the chair of a visiting WASC team at another district, and that's part of his professional development, as well as our way of learning about other schools and different ways to do things. So otherwise, I'm sure he would love to be here with us.
Thank you. The next item is the Livermore Valley Joint Unified School District initial proposal. Articles 8, work year. Article 9, work day. Article 12, evaluations. Article 21, wages. Article 22, health benefits. Article 23, retiree health benefit trust. Article 24, retirement incentive program. Article 35, technology. Article 36, reopeners, and then Appendix D, the extracurricular pay schedule, and Appendix E, procedures for determining high school department chair. The superintendent's recommendation this evening is to receive public comment to adopt the district's initial proposal for successor agreement between the district and LEA effective July 1, 2014.
All right, once again, I'm going to ask if there's any member of the public that would like to comment. Now would be the time. And would any member of the board like to comment? And if not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we adopt the LEA and the Livermore Valley Joint Unified School District initial proposal for successor agreement.
Okay, do I have a second? All right, so we have a motion and a second to adopt the district initial proposal for a successor agreement. Can we call the roll, Mr. Rogie?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And the motion carries unanimously. And that takes us to the next action item, which is the new course description.
Thank you, Madam President. Next, I'll ask Mrs. Amy Robbins to return to the podium. She's our Director of Curriculum and Special Projects, and she, and I believe we have other folks in the audience who are part of this item, they'll be presenting a new high school course description for your approval.
Good evening again. I would like to ask the principal of Livermore High School, Alberto Solazano, and one of his teachers, Vielka Oy, to come forward. Tonight we're bringing to you a new elective course that's being proposed by our high schools titled The Introduction to Sociology. So really looking at Livermore High specifically, Vielka Oy, the teacher, has presented or proposed an Introduction to Sociology course, and I will let them talk a little bit more, but really looking at our students, our needs, looking at 21st century skills, and the global awareness. And so it came out of a need from students and an interest from students to really expand the elective offerings to address a continued area of focus and to foster those 21st century skills to develop global citizens to really study the structures of society. So Introduction to Sociology. Sociology, for those of us who needs a refresher for the definition, it's the study of the development, structure, and functioning of human society. So how better else to prepare our students in really having a solid frame, understanding how society has over time evolved and how those structures are in place and how they fit within society. Intro to Sociology would be a 1-semester equivalent course, which is 5 units, and is being proposed for 10th through 12th graders. It will be submitted to UC for A through G approval as a social science elective. And again, it's really looking at how we can develop our students' critical thinking by revealing the social structures and processes that have shaped our diverse world. So, I will let our Livermore High principal and the teacher talk a little bit about the structure of the course, or maybe some of the overviews, highlights, and what is driving the proposal this evening.
Thank you, Mrs. Robbins. We are certainly privileged to be here to talk a little bit about this new course. Certainly, it really is about critical thinking, and it really is about students being aware of society at large. We feel that students are given opportunities to see the different cultures and the diversity within Livermore, but also we can expose them to how those societies are formed, both as a community, but also smaller communities within the school system. And so looking at how communities are formed on a school site, in a virtual world, in our growing community here, but also as a state, as a region, and as a nation. And so this course really is going to be a springboard for more and deeper studies, such as women in history, ethnic studies, sport and society, and even a deeper study of the different wars that have occurred throughout our history. And so we're really excited that this can be a foundational course for our students, and we're also very privileged to even have a teacher who has a very diverse background in terms of her experiences, but also her educational background in teaching students to be critical thinkers, but also one that's going to be exposed to both writing and a deeper understanding of society. And that's Ms. Vielka Oy.
Yeah, so as mentioned, the course is meant to be a foundation for any other sort of social science that I'm new this year that they've mentioned that they wanted to do, and also really sort of a bridge between the high school curriculum and what they might find in the intro level at the university level. So a lot of the theories and people that we're talking about are something that they would probably see in an intro to sociology course at a university. So part of the intent too is to increase interest in that sort of study, as well as a foundation for other things they might want to do in high school. I personally like to use a lot of technology when I'm teaching, so that's going to be huge in the classroom. And part of the large culminating project for them is to find a trend in human behavior to look at and collect data around and present. So I anticipate that to be something that they'll enjoy doing as well.
And it looked like Mrs. White was ready with some questions.
Yes, I'm just wondering what kind of credential one would need to teach a sociology course. Do you have to have been a sociology major, or other classes in math? Seems obvious, but this doesn't seem so obvious to me.
It's a social science credential.
It's just a plain social science credential. Okay. Thank you.
Dr. Dunlop?
Let's see, are there, I'm sure there are other related courses at the school, and so could you tell me what kind of related courses there are in sociology, or is this kind of a one of a kind in terms of what will be there?
So currently there aren't. There's other disciplines. So there's the AP psychology or the college-bound psychology or college prep psychology, and then the social science classes. But those are the required courses. So the ninth grade social studies or the 10th grade world history. But those are also, I would say, different disciplines. So those are history. The ninth grade course is a geography discipline. So this would be the first one with this under sociology as a discipline.
Okay, so in that sense, I really think this is very important in today's world, because we see all the problems that come when people cannot figure out how it is they can cooperate. And that happens at the family level, the local level, and internationally. And so I think, I'm very supportive of this kind of class, and wish you well in it.
Thank you, Mr. Dunlop. And actually, I'm glad you brought up that point, because of this course really allows for the use of technology, but also use of multiple resources. And so given kind of the national attention that's being played out in Ukraine and Venezuela, real-time learning can be taking place in a course like this. So I really appreciate you bringing that point up, because it can be kind of a current events type course that we can bring in some real-time learning about the events that are occurring in our nation, as well as countries abroad.
I love your question, because when I saw the proposal, I had made some assumptions that we had similar courses in our catalog, and very excited that this is now being added to our catalog, because there are other high schools within California that have this course pre-approved by UC, and so it's nice to be able to offer this now in Livermore to our students.
Mr. Rogi?
Yes, your thought on technology also made me realize one thing I'd like to see in this beginning, this intro to sociology, is technology and its effect on sociology. The fact that Syria, Ukraine, how technology is affecting our drive and what we do. And given today's social patterns of grouping in threes and texting each other, or driving with a cell phone, I would like to see that, how that would fit into this theory and study of sociology in today's society and the events leading up to it. Obviously, the events leading up to it have only been about 15 years old as compared to everything else, but that's something I'd like to see added into that, because it's moving so fast that in a year it's going to change. And I'm not sure how you would add it in, but it's something I'd like to see as the technology aspect in its use.
You want to answer that?
Sure. It is kind of already in terms of there's grouping, so family, and so that there would be how do families communicate. So you would have generation sort of gaps, or and so that would be a really interesting trend to study. In my graduate work, I read a study about how immigrants form identity here using technology to connect them at home. So that was kind of interesting. Sort of Facebook groups that were created to make them feel connected, yet they're never actually there. They're virtually there. So it's kind of embedded in some of the topics already.
Yeah, that's one of the things technology that I've noticed is you may move someplace, but you're never really left home.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
Because of technology.
Well, it's interesting how everybody takes a little different something from it. As I was sitting here knowing that this course was coming, and I was watching the Shooting Stars video, I think about the implications for those special ed students and how they've really been incorporated into the larger population of students by that positive action of a few people who said, we want to include you. And I think that's a wonderful example of character that we want to encourage, and I think a worthy topic for your class. Mm-hmm. I have a degree in math, and one of the great things about a degree in math, rather than, you know, Dr. Dunlop's physics, is you have a lot of free credits. And sociology was one of the classes that I took with my social science distribution credits, and I got a lot out of it. So I'm very excited to see this course, and I look forward to maybe talking with you a year or two down the road about what's come out of it and what you see as the next step for that. And I do hope that we really do talk about some of these character elements. The technology of anonymous bullying through technology, those kind of things are really important now, and I think that, you know, we've got a decent handle on them in our schools, but I could see that getting out of control really quickly. And so I'm really glad that this is going to be something that is going to be talked about on our campuses. So yeah, I'm very much in favor of this coursework, and I look forward to seeing where you take it. Was there any member of the public that wanted to comment on this item? And if not, did you have more to say?
No, I just would like to say that the superintendent's recommendation is to approve the 912 new course description.
All right, so I'll entertain a motion. If
Madam President, I'd like to move that we accept the introduction to sociology into our curriculum.
And I'll second that.
All right, and we have a motion and a second. So, Mr. Rogie, if you'd call the roll.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Aye.
Mrs. White.
Aye.
Dr. Dunlop.
Aye.
Mrs. Runyon.
Aye.
And myself, aye.
Well, and we never want to let a teacher get away without shaking your hand, so I'd love to have you come up.
I told her she might even get a picture.
Good idea.
Just running for office.
Okay, so that takes us to another topic.
Sure. Thank you, Madam President. I'll ask Mrs. Yolanda Holmes, our Executive Director of Human Resources, to join us once again. She has a resolution for board approval regarding a possible reduction or elimination of particular kinds of service for the next school year.
President Runyon, members of the board, Superintendent Bowers, does not bring me pleasure to come to you tonight with certificated layoffs. However, due to the uncertainty of the state budget and in the reviewing of the 14-15 school year, the board, we're asking to take steps on the positions and assignments that we'll review tonight in terms of the certificated layoffs. The certificated layoff timeline is the adoption of resolutions, which the tie-breaking criteria was brought to you for certificated staff on February the 18th. Particular types of service is what we're going to talk about tonight, and also the precautionary layoff notices that by law must be delivered to those that are impacted before March 15th. The anticipated hearing date, should anyone challenge the intent to lay off, would be in April, and then final notifications before May 15th. This is a precautionary layoff as we are moving forward under the timelines that are given to school districts throughout California. The particular kind of service this evening, this year is 0. We're moving forward as far as no layoff notices for multiple subject credentialed employees. However, in the secondary area, we have adopted physical education program, 1 FTE, art, a 0.75, foreign language, which is French, a 0.5, for a total layoff of a 2.25 FTE. The superintendent's recommendation is that you adopt resolution 027 1314.
Just for clarification, so at this point, these are classes where the anticipated sign-up has been reduced over other years?
This is correct.
Okay, so it's not like, it's not a program that's being potentially funded, but we don't have the funding yet. This is literally lack of interest in certain class areas.
Yes, and since it is a precautionary layoff, Mr. Van Schack will continue to work with administrators to take a look at that before we have to issue the final in May.
Good, thank you. I'll move that we adopt Resolution 027-1314.
It's Mr. McLaughlin? Aye or nay?
Aye.
Mrs. White?
Aye.
Dr. Dunlop?
Aye.
Mrs. Runyon? And myself, aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll ask Mrs. Susan Kinder, our Chief Business Official, to present to you the second period interim report for 2013-14, and hopefully for your approval.
Good evening, Madam President, Superintendent Bowers, members of the board. Tonight we bring you the 2013 second interim. So earlier this evening you had a letter from Superintendent Jordan at the county approving our first interim. So we're already on our second interim. And as you already know, California Department of Ed requires that we submit 2 certified financial reports, one being the first interim, and then the second interim, which we're presenting tonight, which is as of January 31st, 2014. So first, I'm just going to do a little update from our last budget update, which was done in December. I know you can't read this on the screen, but this is in the board packet, and the middle column are the changes from the last report. Our beginning balance is now audited at $7,163,610. We have projected revenues of $105,503,771. Our projected expenditures of $112,033,146. Transfers in of $2,853,726, leaving us with a projected ending fund balance of $3,487,961. And that's a difference of $39,221 from the last report. And the change that occurred was on the expense side. We had some salary and benefit adjustments totaling $44,414, and then we were charged some. We charge indirect costs to grants of $5,193. So that's a positive to our ending fund balance, and that's where the $39,221 comes from. So when we look at our general fund, this is kind of a visual to show you how we spend our money. You'll notice that 89 million, or 80% of our total expenditures, are people. So that's all our salaries and benefits. And then that leaves the other 20% to be our supplies and services. If you were to look at just our unrestricted side of the budget, you would see that our expenses are 91% for salaries and benefits. So we are a very people-intensive business. So the multi-year projection is one of the things that we're always excited to see, because since we're so close to next year already. And you'll see the biggest change here from the first interim. We used the Fiscal Crisis and Management Assistance Team calculator, better known as FICMAT. We are projecting class size to be around 24.5 to 1. We included step and column. We're estimating our enrollment to be stable for the next couple of years. And we're using our average daily attendance, ADA, we're using 12,227 for this year, which was actually last year's ADA. But since we've been slightly declining, our actual ADA is projected to be 12,095 for this year, and that's what we're projecting for the next couple of years. We include about 10 certificated retirees. And in the first assumption, you'll see we are assuming that the parcel tax is renewed in 15-16. So this is the multi-year projection. What I'll focus on is the change in our fund, the change to the fund balance. So this year we are still deficit spending. And the reason it's $3,675,000 is because there was some prior year expenses that are included there. So the real deficit spending is about $900,000. And then in next year, so this is where the big change is from the first interim, is that now we have positive numbers and they get kind of big at the end. So we're hoping to see $1 million additional funding next year, revenue over expenses. And then in 15-16, it could be up to $6 million or maybe more, depending on how the state does. And then I just wanted to show you what it would look, and of course then our reserve. So we are just a little shy of our 3% reserve at this point in time. So as we receive additional donations and grants where we don't charge indirect costs, our reserve requirement goes up, and obviously we don't have any additional unrestricted funds to increase our reserve. So we are just a little bit short, but we have verified with the county that they're okay with that, because if you look at our multi-year projection, we are obviously over 3% in the next 2 years. And one of the things to have a positive certification is to show that, or when you do a positive certification, is that you are able to pay your obligations for this year and the next 2 years. And so we are sure that we are able to do that. So the other thing that I wanted to show was what it would look like without the parcel tax. And you can see that that 15-16 year goes down very quickly. And I just want to remind everyone that that $1 million that we have in 14-15, we haven't done our local control accountability plan yet. So there may be things that we would like, things that we need and we'd like to spend that money on. If we spend that on ongoing expenses, that will wipe out that $2.2 million in 15-16 because it compounds. So something to keep in mind. So the recommendation, superintendent's recommendation, is to have a positive certification, and that is that based on current projections that we are able to meet our financial obligations for the current fiscal year and 2 subsequent years. That, I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Okay. Would any member of the public like to comment on any member of the board? Dr. Dunlop.
I always like to ask the question, 3 years out, how well can we believe that number?
Well, if I had a crystal ball.
In the past, we've always been very disappointed as we went from year to year. And so now we're looking on the positive side, but the question is, we really can't plan on that until we probably get 1 year away. And
the third year out is always tricky.
Yeah, but it looks very, very good right now. But it's too early, I think, to get really enthused about it.
Mrs. White?
On the other hand, I think if we have increases in our unexpended money, the 1 million and the 6 million, I mean, I realize it compounds. And I realize that we're hoping that the local control funding formula will continue to improve our standing. We certainly can begin to think about how we would spend the money if it really materializes, because we've been cutting since 07, 08, and we've become accustomed to living in hardship. And it would be nice to not have our students living in hardship anymore.
Mr. Rogie? Oh, sorry, I thought you did. Just a couple of points. I did contact the county and clarify with them what Mrs. Kinder said, that they're comfortable, even though we had a tiny, tiny miss on our 3% reserve. I think another important point for the public to understand is the legislature's still looking at changes to the LCFF. So we're going on the current law, but school services sent out a bulletin, I think this morning, that said that there were several hundred bills in process to amend the local control funding formula. So it's a moving target for us. I hope that we will actually see some of the promised money, but after what we've been through, I'm going to be from the show me state. I want to see the check. And yes, I think Mrs. White is exactly correct. We want to have contingency plans for various amounts of money, priorities. And I heard tonight very clearly from our teaching staff that a very high priority for them would be staff development and collaboration time. So that's something that I'll be keeping in mind. And with that, I'll entertain a motion from the board.
Madam President, I move that we accept the second period interim financial report as of January 31st, 2014.
And I'll second that.
Thank you very much. If the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Yeah.
Mrs. White.
Aye.
Dr. Dunlap.
Aye.
Mrs. Runyon.
Aye.
And myself, aye.
And the motion passes unanimously. And that brings us to the parcel tax resolution. And you had some more to say on that?
I do.
All
So next, so this is kind of piggybacking, even though there's been some other items in between on the public hearing, which was the mention of the parcel tax and the explanation of the parcel tax extension and the possibility of placing it on the June 3rd, 2014 ballot. And so what this entails is actually a resolution that we would ask the board to adopt this evening. So we've already discussed that in January we had a poll to determine the level of support, and there was quite a bit of support, and people shared their priorities with us. We also presented to the board those results, and then tonight we've had a public hearing where the community had the opportunity to weigh in. And so I want to just cover some of the key points. It's a lengthy resolution and includes the full text, but some of the key points of the resolution just to call to mind. First of all, it's a given that that we must have a superior and comprehensive education program for our students, and they deserve nothing less. It's essential that we have stable, reliable funding, and as was just mentioned by Board President Runyon, we can't always count on that from the state. It is essential that we have certain elements and conditions in our schools, and that we can attract and retain the most highly qualified teachers, like some of the ones that you saw tonight and heard from, keeping our textbooks and instructional materials up to date, particularly with the shift to Common Core, providing comprehensive curricular programs so our students get a well-rounded experience, TK-12, and ensuring safe and well-maintained schools. Our district has been and proven over time that we're very committed to maintaining manageable class sizes, staying lower than many of our counterparts in the state, even when they have received higher funding levels. That has been a priority. Our district's voters and community have supported these programs with supplementary local funding for over a decade, and we're counting on them to possibly continue that. Measure M is going to expire in June of 2015, leaving many of these programs possibly at risk, and Mrs. Kinder just pointed out the shortfall that would take place if the funding doesn't continue, because the programs are so vital and critical, and we'd like to continue them for our students. The state has budgeted increased funding for local control funding formula, but that will not guarantee that these programs will stay. The increase will not offset that loss in revenue by the current Measure M. So basically, the continuation of the parcel tax will help us preserve certain advanced academic programs, some of our STEM programs, including mathematics, science, engineering, technology, as well as the music, art, and foreign language courses and electives. And it would also continue funding specialists in science and technology at elementary schools. Even if people do not have students in our schools anymore, such as Mr. Bueno spoke earlier, it is well understood that property values in the community are positively affected by the quality of education in the district schools. It's certainly a draw, and the quality of life is affected. So based on the poll results, we have proposed the following ballot language, which I read earlier, so I'm not going to read again. Save my voice and save your ears. But with that, my recommendation is that we would ask the board to adopt resolution number 028-1314, a resolution calling for a parcel tax election in June of 2014.
Would any member of the public like to comment? Any member of the board?
just researching, when is it going to commence? If this was to pass?
It would start July 1st of 2015, so basically the day after the other one expires. And it would
Year
go for 7 years.
2015, 16.
We're just making sure it's a document someplace. Thank you.
Mrs. White?
At one time, I was concerned about the generality in the statement of the election. And I finally realized, and I looked at my files, and Proposition D and Proposition M of the past were also very, very general. And Mrs. Bowers has added some specifics in her final remarks here so that we have a better clue about specifically what the $3.8 million would be expended for. And I don't know whether we, the board, would take action at some point a year and a half from now to designate that those are the things we're going to spend the money for, or how that would work. But we need, the community needs to have confidence that we'll try to continue the programs that are already being funded by the parcel tax.
Okay, it looks like we have exhausted the comments on this item, so I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move that we adopt Resolution 028-1314, resolution calling for parcel tax election.
I'll second.
Thank you. And with that, we can call the roll. Mr. Rogie?
Mrs. Runyon?
Aye.
Dr. Dunlop?
Aye.
Mrs. White?
Aye.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Aye.
And myself, aye.
All right. So we look forward to a successful result with that one. And that takes us to consent items. Did any member want to pull any item?
I just wanted to make a comment on
yes,
the
Mr. Rogie.
gifts section. Just to make sure that we do thank everybody who has given gifts to our schools and to our students, and we do appreciate it, and it's part of our helping students to accomplish what we need to have them accomplish, and please don't stop.
All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion on the consent items.
I'll move that we approve consent items A through I.
Is there a second? Mr. McLaughlin seconds, and if Mr. Rogie will call the roll.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, and the motion passes unanimously, and we have no further resolutions tonight. And do we have any board member reports or requests?
I'm in.
Mrs. White?
We all know that Science on Saturday was Saturday, but it was not the only sciencey thing that happened on Saturday. I also went to Expanding Your Horizons, and I got a T-shirt. Expanding Your Horizons included about 300 determined middle school young women at Las Positas who were engaged in hands-on activity, and I've just never seen. I mean, they were just engaged. It was powerful. And then, but what the Science Odyssey had been the week before with another gyms full of engaged students talking about their projects. I also was able to go to the play at Livermore High School. Again, it was Fortinbras, which is what happens next after Hamlet. And, that's creative dramaturgy. And that evening, I went to the Livermore Amador Symphony, where they announced the winners of their high school musician contest. And there was a fellow from Pleasanton, a pianist, Ari Chen, was the successful candidate there. But Robert Shee was for clarinetist from Livermore High School. And Sarah talked about the badminton club. Well, he's one of the founders of the badminton club, and he's also on the debate team and teaches debating skills. He has done don't want to say countless, but it's quite a few activities with his musicianship. And he helped found the Tri-Valley Youth Clarinet Choir. So we've got an awful lot of talented young people. We were also introduced to the Fiddle Club from Jackson Avenue Elementary School. The Livermore Amador Symphony raises money from Lawrence Lab, from Clorox, and the Rotary to provide violin instruction. And it happened at Junction School this year and at Jackson School. And so the members of this fiddle club came to the concert to see what it's like when a whole bunch of fiddles play together. I read yesterday at Maryland Avenue School for Read Across America Day, and that was fun. I mean, the kids, I had a book that talked about different kinds of parts of speech, and these second graders knew about nouns and verbs and adjectives already. I don't think I knew that when I was in second grade. And the Graduation Requirements Committee had another meeting, this time with the high school principals, and we're coming through with a proposal which will probably increase the graduation requirements. The proposal will. We don't know how far it will go. Perhaps including increasing the career technical education requirements. Perhaps math. We just won't know. We'll have to see how it plays out in the end. But the topic will be introduced to faculty soon, and then parent groups. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hoyt. Dr. Dunlop?
Just a few items. Last Saturday, I went to the regional math counts competition, and we had a number of schools from Livermore who participated in that. Unfortunately, one of our really good schools, Mendenhall, placed, I think it was 5th in the competition. They did an excellent job on their team round, which kind of saved them and put them up in 5th place, and they were, I think, very proud of accomplishing that. And of course, the other students who participated had a chance to show their stuff and learn where they stood in terms of their math skills. And the ones that we had from Christensen were mainly from the 6th and 7th grade, so they were trying to get on track for later years. But anyway, it was good to see that we had a number of schools represented, and I think all the kids are proud of themselves when they discover how good they are with math. The other item I'd like to mention is there was also on this last weekend a memorial service for Donna Hoffa, who was Livermore High campus supervisor for, I think, a couple of decades, and she was very well liked by the students, so there were a lot of people from the high school there who remembered her, and we always hate to see our good friends from the school depart from us, but she was an excellent, nice person, and it was nice to go to that service.
Thank you, Dr. Dunlop. Mr. Ogie, did you have anything?
I wave back.
Mr. McLaughlin, did you have anything? Okay, and I'm also going to waive in the interest of time, so that takes the superintendent report.
So thank you. I think by now almost everybody's heard the wonderful news about Del Val, but just in case you haven't, they received their official designation as a California Model Continuation School, which is quite an accomplishment. And I believe they had a perfect score on their application, so that also meant a lot to the staff and the students there. As I sort of mentioned earlier with Maryland Avenue School, there were actually 5 schools named to the 2013 California Business for Educational Excellence Honor Roll. And so congratulations goes out to Maryland, Smith, Sunset, Mendenhall Middle School, and Granada High School. They were recognized. We don't apply for this. This is an outside honor. They go through with their criteria. And this is the California Business for Educational Excellence Award. And some of them, this has been multiple years of winning that same award. Many of our cabinet members, our bargaining unit representatives, and administrators met in a classroom cabinet with Assemblymember Joan Buchanan. So she came here to hear our concerns about Common Core and also to fill us in on some of the legislative actions in Sacramento that ultimately affect us. And so, so that was always helpful. Also, many of us attended the Science Odyssey, and I believe we had our highest participation rate ever. The award winners will be invited here for recognition at a future board meeting. There have been so many exciting high school rivalry events and even the NCS playoffs, and I think our high school students talked a lot about that, but certainly the highlight was the shooting stars and the standing ovation that happened spontaneously for them. My husband and I attended the Safe and Sober Grad Night fundraiser, and I just think it's always important to stress the importance of the Safe and Sober Grad Night. That's part of our community's tradition. We honor that, and it is not, it is definitely expensive to host, but it is worthwhile because children's lives and the community members' lives are priceless. So one thing that was really nice this year, Police Chief Michael Harris came and he spoke to the crowd about the importance of keeping the community safe and our students safe and make sure that they have a really memorable and safe celebration. So we have over 1,000 plus graduating seniors. And so at the other end of the spectrum, we had our TK and our kindergarten registration fair. Mr. Scott Vernoy and his crew planned that. It was a wonderful event, a huge success. We had over 700 families, I think, pre-registering. These families and students were so eager to be part of our school district. Can't blame them. Many of our staff were on hand to help ensure the process was smooth. The families were welcomed. It was a very late night, but many of our staff volunteered to stay until every single student was registered. And so just think about this. We just talked about seniors, but this is the incoming class of 2027.
Wow.
And that concludes my report. Think on that one.
All right, and we're adjourned at 9:07.